This is the story of Star Wars. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear R2-D2 beep like this. Let's begin now. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Welcome back to the Plastic Planet. I am your host, Knick-Knack, on a very, very special evening. As you all know, tonight is Wednesday, tomorrow is the release of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I have cautious optimism about the film, personally. I'm just going to have to wait and see. But I wanted to take this opportunity to really, since this channel is sort of in its infancy, I really wanted to talk about what Star Wars means to me as a collector, as a connoisseur of fiction, as a lover of history, mythology, astronomy. Star Wars is the beginning of it all for me. And I played this record just now. This was the Star Wars read-along book that I was given in 1979 as a kid. And this was really almost my introduction into Star Wars, more so than the film itself. The narrator you just heard, I tried tirelessly to find his name online. I couldn't. But the man had such a golden voice. And the way he just brought you into the universe was just so amazing. His voice is so soothing to me. It's almost like comfort food. Almost like warm macaroni and cheese or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with the crust cut off. To me, it just takes me back to the safety and security of childhood, because I would listen to this record, this very record I'm holding up right now, for hours and hours on end. In fact, I wore out so many of these that my parents constantly had to replace them for me. Fortunately, they were rather inexpensive, I believe, even back then. I go back into my record case, which is over there, which I pulled this from, and I honestly have like at least 3 copies of this one, 2 or 3 copies of Empire Strikes Back, and I was old enough by the time Return of the Jedi came out that I didn't wear that one into the ground so much, so I only have 1 copy of that. But you got to understand, this was before VCRs, and so the only time you could really watch Star Wars, well, I shouldn't say it was before VCRs, but it was before VCRs were affordable. You know, I didn't get my first Star Wars video cassette, which was this one, until I was in the 7th grade, which would have been 1988. So much, much later. So, you know, if you wanted to have a Star Wars, if you wanted to, get your Star Wars kick on, this was the only way to do it. So I would listen to these tirelessly. I remember getting up in the middle of the night and turning these on really, really quiet, just so my parents couldn't hear. But I would listen to them, and then, and fall back asleep on the floor. So many early memories of mine involve these records. And so this was really the beginning of it for me. This was the beginning of maybe, for better or for worse, who I am today. So many of my career choices were because of Star Wars. I'm not going to say specifically what I do. I don't work in the movies, but I work with movies, if that makes any sense at all. And, that path started because of Star Wars. So much of the things that I studied and so much of the things that I love, which I mentioned before, astronomy and Greek and Roman mythology and Arthurian legend, started because of George Lucas's vision. So tonight I'm going to talk exclusively about Star Wars. That's all we're going to do. And I'm going to take you through some things that are important to me. My top 10 favorite items in my collection that are all Star Wars based. As you can see, I'm surrounded by a number of things from my childhood. These are all authentic pieces from the, Knick-Knack's original childhood collection, which, have held up through playware and storageware throughout the years. Because, there was a time in my life when these weren't such a priority to me, and, they kind of got tossed in a box and put up in a hot attic or shoved under a bed. And so, they've survived a lot, and I'm really glad I still have them, fortunately. So we're going to be getting into that. We're going to be talking about my top 10, like I said, my top 10 favorite things in my collection that are all Star Wars related, and we're just going to get right to it. We're going to have a great night. Knick-Knack Star Wars Special. With your host, it's Knick-Knack! Alrighty, coming in at number 10 on my list of top 10 favorite Star Wars collectibles in my collection is the 1/6 scale dewback from Sideshow Collectibles. This piece is incredibly awesome, and if you've been with the channel the entire time, I actually featured it back in transmission number 1, which is the full Sideshow Hot Toys room tour collection. But nevertheless, going to show it here one more time. Hopefully this isn't too redundant for those who have been with me the entire time, and for those who have, by the way, thank you so much. I do appreciate that very, very much. Nevertheless, this figure is incredibly cool, and I love it a lot. Really takes me back, especially if you get down and kind of gaze up at it from this angle, really takes me back to a lot of the old Lucasfilm archive photographs you'd see of the dewback standing in the desert. You know, whether we're talking about pictures in the old Dynamite magazine from the late 1970s or the Star Wars storybook, you know, those types of media, you really does capture the dewback that was, you know, shown back then, the giant mannequin dewback, you know, pre-CGI. So that is incredibly cool, and I do love the way the artist who sculpted this captured him kind of striding through the desert, with the one leg up there, and then of course the stormtrooper on top, the sand trooper I should say on top. I don't believe that's actually the right sand trooper to have up. I believe that's the sergeant figure, 1/6 scale from Sideshow. I think the one I'd want would be the one with the white shoulder guard. This one of course has the orange one, but nevertheless, really cool. Do love this figure, and so it is definitely worthy of top 10 mention. Alrighty, coming in at number 9 is sort of in the same vein as the dewback. This is the 1/6 scale Yoda's hut from Sideshow Collectibles. And if I scan back just a little bit, this is such a nice piece, and it should be always displayed in the round, I believe. I actually have mine sitting on a Lazy Susan, which was suggested to me back in the Sideshow Freaks forum way back in the day when this came out. So I took that suggestion, and I think that's a great idea, because it kind of enables you to rotate it around a little bit and just to kind of see it for all its glory. And it's a piece that, like I said, should be displayed in the round, because there's a lot to look at here, and there's a lot to love. It's got the little bog wing, I think, and he's got a little magnet on him, and he sticks right there. And of course, the highlight of this piece, in my opinion, is the fire flickering over there with it just runs off 3 AAA batteries, but that fire is amazing. And then the ambiance lighting inside is absolutely awesome. You kind of feel like you're right there in Empire Strikes Back, listening in on Yoda and Luke banter back and forth. So amazing piece. It comes with all the different accessories, almost too much accessories actually. There's pots and pans and spoons and all kinds of stuff, barrels and firewood and a kettle and tables and a little carpet there. I love this piece a lot, and it's something that's been in my collection for quite a while now and will be in my collection for many years to come. In fact, I'll probably die with this and still in my collection, so something my kids will have to sell. Anyway, that's it. The Yoda's Hut from Sideshow Collectibles, number 9. Alrighty, coming in at number 8, my top 10 favorite Star Wars collectibles in my collection is the 1/6 scale Hot Toys A New Hope Luke Skywalker, the farm boy version, with the light up lightsaber. And in the last video, when I was unboxing my MP36 Megatron, which of course Transformers, I mentioned that there's some figures that you get and you're just kind of like, meh, you know, and you're not, you order it, you're excited to get it, you open it up, and yeah, you're glad to have it, but you don't quite, you know, it's sort of anticlimactic. Well, this was one of those figures, like that MP36 Megatron, I opened up and I just completely nerdgasmed over. I love this figure just because of that light-up lightsaber. That was the first time I'd ever seen one of those from Hot Toys. It just works on so many levels, and the figures, the way the soft goods lay on him, and the posability, and the niceness by which he can, you know, stand on a shelf, and the facial features, what I think is actually fairly a good representation of Mark Hamill from 1976. So I really love this figure a lot, and that's definitely why it is in my top 10. Coming in at number 7 is my 1/4 scale premium format Anakin Skywalker from Sideshow Collectibles. This is a bit of an older piece, but I still feel it really holds up nicely. The lightsaber, while not LED like the newer premium formats, still has a nice light up feature to it. It blends through the saber fairly nicely. Again, not as nice as the ones that are coming out now, but still decent. And the head sculpt I always thought really looked like Hayden Christensen, who I really honestly enjoyed, both in Attack of the Clones as well as Revenge of the Sith. So I do enjoy this figure a great deal. And the set came with multiple heads, two different heads you could change out. One had Sith eyes, one did not. I don't think I have the Sith eyes on him right now. So I think that's the regular version. This was the exclusive, obviously. And yeah, I really do like this figure. The Jedi cloak has wire throughout the edges, so you can really pose it up real nice and have it blowing out in the wind there, which is really, really cool. So this is a great addition to my collection, and actually the only prequel entry in this top 10, but worthy entry nonetheless. Coming in at number 6, although they are sold separately, I am listing them as a single item, and we're getting into a little more of the higher price-pointed items in my collection. That is, of course, the premium format, 1/4 scale, I believe, C-3PO and R2-D2. These are great figures. I absolutely love them. This is like version 2.0 that they came out with. The first version of these guys came on either like a generic base or a sand base, and these guys came on more of a, I think it's supposed to be like a Millennium Falcon decking. Looks kind of cool. I like it a lot. They don't fit together the best, which I don't like. The kind of have to line up the floor, and I kind of failed to do that just because I wanted to get them into a certain pose, kind of facing off with each other as opposed to standing side by side or in the the iconic R2-D2 standing in front of C-3PO. Kind of wanted to show them as if they were conversing. But again, really, really awesome. Do love this figure a lot. The C-3PO, there's a few things with him I don't like. I don't like that in order to turn him on, you actually have to take his head off or his face off and then hit the switch in the back of the head. Not such a fan of that. And I don't understand why every single one of these, including the Hot Toys. In fact, this is the second one I've had to change out so I could do the video. Why all these Hot Toys and Sideshow pieces have to run on watch batteries. I swear the only thing that's keeping watch battery manufacturers in business in 2017 must be high-end collectibles, or medium to high-end collectibles, I should say. So anyway, these are really great pieces. My only other complaint is the R2-D2 is a little flimsy. He's not like polystone or anything. He's just very plasticky for a figure that runs for 300 plus. That's a little chintzy, but he looks great nonetheless. So these guys are definitely worthy. I'm a real robots guy, droids guy, and so I do love C-3PO and R2-D2 a lot, and I really wanted to have something that looked represented them in a very iconic way to sort of centerpiece in my collection. So these guys fit the bill nicely. Alrighty, coming in at number 5 is the first piece from my original Star Wars collection that's going to crack the top 10, and that is, of course, a Man-O-Man, or as he was known back in the day, back in the Power of the Force, Kenner days, Headhunter. And this figure, when I got him, just was kind of had a shock value to him. He came. I actually got him with the repackaged droid factory set, which they repurposed into Jabba the Hutt's droid dungeon. So he came with with 2 other figures. One of them was EV-99, and the other one, I believe, was Barata. Maybe I can't quite remember. Wasn't Klaatu. I believe it might have been Barata. But anyway, that's not here nor there. So he had a bit of a shock value to me as a when I got him when I was probably 8 years old, probably because of the decapitated heads on his pike here and the little hand there. Just this figure just kind of went all out on the gruesome department for a Star Wars figure, and for the time it was very, very cool. So the fact that I still have him and I still have his staff, and he's in almost pristine condition because I got him later on in my childhood when I really wasn't playing with these things with as much veracity as I was in my younger days. Kept him in very, very good shape. Coming in at number 4 from The Empire Strikes Back and Sideshow Collectibles is the 1/6 scale Tauntaun with Luke Skywalker in Hoth gear atop him. I love this figure set so much. The Tauntaun is actually polystone. But the medium fits really nice. It does have a little bit of a seam that collectors have griped about over the years, because you can change out the head, and that comes with two different heads. You can actually have one of them is a little more of a stern-looking Tauntaun. I went with more of the derpy-looking one because I think he's awesome-looking. You can also change out the horns, which is really cool. This is a magnet on here, so you can put one that's an unbroken horn. The broken horn, as most Star Wars fans all know, is Luke Skywalker's steed, whereas the unbroken horn belongs to Han Solo. Very, very cool. I know this figure's been out for a while. A lot of people have seen it, but this is one of my absolute favorites in my collection. First of all, because of its presence in The Empire Strikes Back, and just how mind-blowing that whole scene was in the opening with the Tauntaun first coming onto the screen there, and just how impactful that was to me when I was 4.5 years old, seeing Empire Strikes Back in the theaters for the first time. And that was one thing, that The Empire Strikes Back was the Star Wars movie that I actually do remember seeing opening in theaters, back in 1980. I remember my dad calling me up from work the day we were going and talking to me on the phone and saying if I was ready to go see the movie and how excited I was. And then we went, and then I actually remember the Shining trailer at the beginning, before the film started, the Shining trailer with the elevator opening up and all this blood coming out, like this giant deluge of blood coming out of the elevator, and just how shocking that was to me, because I was a little guy. I was only like 4.5 years old, but not even 5 yet. But that's such a strong memory for me. And then, of course, I remember the film opening up, and I remember the duel between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and then I remember the end of the film with Luke and Princess Leia and the droid standing on board the medical frigate, watching Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca depart, going off to find Han Solo, and just not even feeling like the movie couldn't have ended, because it was such a cliffhanger to me. Even at that young age, I was so impressed with it, and that just really, again, started me on my way to Star Wars fandom. Alrighty, coming in at number 3 is probably my favorite character in all of fiction, and that is, of course, the menacing, evil Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader. And this 1/4 scale premium format figure, I believe it's based from Return of the Jedi, really fits the bill on embodying the character and the power and the strength of Darth Vader. First of all, this lightsaber is off the hook awesome, and it is a plug-in. It doesn't rely on batteries, and so my only complaint, and it comes with almost all these premium formats have the same issue, is just where the LED kind of ends and the tip there just sort of sucks. But other than that, it is amazingly awesome. The belt and the chest piece light up. Those are, of course, battery run, which kind of stinks. I don't often turn those on, but to show it off. And then, of course, the bottom lights along the deck plating, incredibly awesome. I believe the scene is inspired by when Luke and Vader are dueling off, and Luke does a backflip onto the catwalk above, and Vader and Luke are bantering back and forth. And this is just before Vader's about to toss his lightsaber at Luke to knock down the catwalk and to send Luke into hiding along the bottom of the throne room. Incredibly awesome piece. Just love it. The way it shines, the way it has it's such high quality, and it damn well ought to be with the price point that I paid for it. I bought it at a local comic book shop. This wasn't something I pre-ordered. It was one of those things I walk into the comic store and they had it up front, and I just was like, just looked at my wallet and said, just prepare to take it up the ass today, wallet. Alright, getting closer and closer to that number 1 spot. This is number 2, and again, we are going way back to my childhood here. This is the Parker Brothers Return of the Jedi Battle at Sarlacc Pit game. The reason why this is held in such high esteem within my collection is really that artwork right there. I've always loved that artwork so much, even as a little kid. It just looks so amazingly awesome, and just an awesome action sequence that wasn't really translated from the film, but nevertheless, it's just really cool the way Luke's lightsaber looks there, and Boba Fett and Luke squaring off, and Lando dangling over the Sarlacc pit there. I'm not sure where Han is in this situation. Looks like he could have eaten it back there, but nevertheless, I absolutely love this. The game itself actually was a lot of fun too. You'd actually set up the Sarlacc pit. It would fit within the box and the sail barge, and you'd draw cards and move along and knock various Gamorrean guards into the pit until the winner got to knock Jabba off into the pit. So it was a lot of fun to play as a little kid. I haven't played it in probably 30 years, but still a lot of fun. This hits number 2, just A, because that artwork is so amazing, and too, because of the nostalgia factor. And again, we're going back to my childhood here. I actually remember being really stressed out when we moved a number of times when I was a kid, and I remember being really stressed out because back then movers would typically like just slap really nasty packing tape on like board games to keep all the pieces inside, and I was really stressed out that they were going to slap nasty tape on this box and ruin it. I actually think I put it in the car myself. Alrighty, here he is, the number one piece in my Star Wars collection. And this is obviously out of pure nostalgia here, but that is, of course, my Kenner original Luke Skywalker from my childhood. This is the figure that really takes me back. I actually got him during the Return of the Jedi release around '83. I was missing a lot of Lukes for a while there because they had gotten lost from playing with them so much, and so this was one my mom hunted down special for me, and I actually got him on a Return of the Jedi card, so he was a little late in the game to get this particular version of Luke. His slide out lightsaber is long gone. He's yellowed. He's got some red pen on him from where he'd gotten in a fight apparently, and I needed to mark him up a little bit. But yeah, this figure is just very, very special to me. And, it just represents to me, and even back as a kid, it just represented to me, Luke Skywalker on the beginning of his hero's journey. I didn't know it as such back then, but there's just something iconic and special as the hero embarks, and he's naive, and he's green, and he's going out into the larger world, and he's has to go through all of his trials, much like Hercules had to in Greek mythology. And Luke has to go through all his little thresholds, like going to the cantina and getting the shit kicked out of him there and saved by Obi-Wan, and then going through the labyrinth of the Death Star. So many things that just makes me love this figure so much, just because of what it represents and its place not only in cinematic history but in toy history as well. The beginning of the 3 3/4 inch line, is the start of really it all for movie tie-in figures. Yes, sure, there was Planet of the Apes before Star Wars, and there was the 12-inch G.I. Joe figures, but this is what started it all. This is what started it all for people my age. This is what without this guy, without these original 12 Star Wars figures, we wouldn't have had He-Man, Transformers, Voltron. They just wouldn't have happened. And so this is just really special, iconic, and dear to my heart.
Okay, kid, you're all clear. It was Han Solo and his Falcon. But the next voice Luke heard was Ben Kenobi's.
Luke, use the Force. Let it guide your actions.
Closing his eyes, Luke concentrated on the target and fired his proton torpedoes. They flew straight and true into the exhaust port. As Luke lifted away, the Death Star exploded in a dazzling ball of flame.
I just had to let that breathe just a little bit, guys. That is just so awesome. That is my childhood right there. That is just, it takes me back. At any rate, thank you so much tonight for joining me on this very special Star Wars edition of the Plastic Planet. I hope you enjoyed checking in on my top 10 favorite items in my collection. Man, I could interchange that on any night. That's just maybe based on my mood tonight is where those items landed. If I did one next week, it could be entirely different. But nevertheless, Star Wars was, and remains a big part of my life, and probably will be till the day I die. So anyway, I hope tomorrow night, those of you going to see The Last Jedi, I hope it's everything you guys hope it is to be. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to it. Just need to line up some logistics with the family, maybe later in the weekend. Not sure. Going to have to avoid the internet nevertheless. Excited to see it though. Cautiously optimistic about it. I think Rian Johnson seems like a solid director. So fingers crossed. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this very special edition of the Plastic Planet. And you know what? Once again, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. All my new subscribers, I want to once again thank you. We just went over 50 subscribers this week, which is I know that's small beans compared to a lot of YouTube channels, but it was a step nonetheless, and we'll just keep building from here, building on this giant plastic planet I like to live on. So anyway, once again, thank you so much. Once again, thank you, like and subscribe. Hope The Last Jedi is awesome. I'm sure it will be. Enjoy the movie, guys, and keep buying shit too. So hopefully you'll go to the movie and you'll be so amped up you'll get on the internet or run to your Walmart or your Target and buy a bunch of shit afterwards, because then you know it was good. So all right, till next time.